Hello, Gina and Tom. Debbie Warner here. Thank you so much for including me for our February 2024 release party. I always love being here and appreciate all of you so very much. Let me tell you about my newest stamp set. It is called With Sympathy, and it has images that I guess I would call foliage, kind of some flowery greenery images. And this one here actually has 5 spots that you can either stamp the little berry or the little flower on to get a little different look. You can probably also look into your stamp set stash and see what other tiny little flowers we have that might also pair well with that stamp. I have several different greetings for the outside of the card with sympathy. I have 2 of those. My favorite one is Forever in Our Hearts. I also have with deepest sympathy. Another one is Thinking of You. And I think that's it. So let me read to you the sentiments for the inside of the card, because I think sometimes it's always hard to think about what do you write in a card for a sympathy card. So I have caring thoughts are with you during this difficult time. Sharing in your sadness, you are in our thoughts. Wishing you peace and comfort. Words can't express my deepest sorrow for your loss. Sending warmest condolences. And the last one is let loving memories soften your grief and pain and bring you peace and comfort. So those are the inside sentiments. So as always, I have my samples hanging out behind me, but I will go to my overhead shots and we will take a look at those cards in more detail and see what I used to make them. Here we go. On my first 2 samples, I used the greenery that has 5 open spots for either a flower or a berry. On my first sample, I used Lucky Clover black and white for my cardstock, and my inks are Lucky Clover and Dusty Rose. The greeting is in black onyx, and I added some black hearts from our black and white heart mix. The second card, I used Edible Eggplant in white for my cardstocks, Edible Eggplant for the greeting and the berries, and the greenery I first stamped in grass green, and then I did a little rock and roll technique on the stamp with some Christmas pine. On this card, my cardstock colors are black onyx, sweet corn, and white. I used masking magic and cut out a circle, and then I did some ink blending inside that circle with sweet corn, sweet mango, and medium carnation. I used black onyx for the greeting and for the image, and then I clear embossed those both with our detailed clear embossing powder. On this card, I used in the navy and metallic silver cardstock. I also used our silver embossing powder. For the lower corners, I did use a corner rounder. It was a 1/2-inch corner rounder just to add a little interest because the card is so simple. On this card, I used Christmas pine and ivory cardstock. I used Master Layouts 12 to cut out the ivory panel. And then I stamped that bigger leaf image with some of our green colors. I used Christmas pine, grass green, jelly bean green, dark spruce, and fresh asparagus. I finished it off with some gold pearls, and the greeting is in our fine detail gold embossing powder. For this card, I started with a Stormy Sky card base, and I used black onyx ink and our Harvest Flourish stencil on that. And then I used a piece of cherry red cardstock with our lattice embossing folder for that red panel. The greeting is white embossed on our black onyx cardstock. That little picture there is watercolor paper cut with Master Layout 7. I used soft stone and stamped the elegant script for the background, and then I used my Zig Real Brush markers directly on the stamp and stamped with that, and then I finished it off with some of my black and white twine. This is a 5x7 card. My cardstock colors are Wild Lilac, Apple Mint, and are white. The image and greeting are stamped in white embossing powder on watercolor paper, and then I used watercolors to do a resist technique. The white panel was embossed with our tapestry embossing folder, and I added some of the soft white pearls for a little more interest. On this tag, I used our white cardstock and I actually used jelly bean cardstock as well. It's just on the flip side. I always like to add something to the back. My inks are jelly bean green, sweet corn, and the greening is in Christmas pine. I did use my colored pencils to do a messy kind of color look on these, and I really like the way it turned out. I hope you enjoyed my samples. As always, I really love to make cards, so I had fun making them. My favorite card this time is the busy one, this one. I know it used a lot of different products. We have a stencil, we have an embossing folder, we have a background stamp, we have some embossing powder, but I really enjoyed this. I think it turned out really cool, and I love the way that image looks when you kind of watercolor on top of it and then stamp it. So also, I wanted to point out that on my blue and silver card, and yes, it is silver. I know it looked gold in the photo. I think it was reflecting me, but I did round the corners on the inside of that card as well. So there you have it. Again, thank you so much for being here and for joining us tonight or in the morning or afternoon, wherever you are. And again, I just want to remind you that I love to see the cards you make with my stamp set. So please share them in our Facebook group so I can see them, or on Instagram. Thank you so much again. Love you all. Have a fabulous rest of your evening or day. Bye-bye.